Welcome to this Lesson Lab module titled De-Escalation that was designed and produced by GoTeach11. Your journey starts here. In this module, you'll learn about the stages of behavioral escalation and apply de-escalation techniques to diffuse a stressful situation that arises during your mini-lesson. You'll demonstrate your learning in a 10-minute mini-lesson. During the mini-lesson, you'll experience a troubled student who's escalating in stress. You'll need to be empathetic to the student's concerns to nurture the student-teacher relationship. You'll earn credit for this module by successfully de-escalating the stressful situation. Later on, we'll refer to a PDF titled Doing the Verbal De-Escalation Dance. A link to the PDF could be found in your Canvas resources for this module. We'll also be reading a section out of Teach Like a Champion 2.0, so you'll want to have that handy as we continue. Now that we've got our focus, know how we'll be assessed and what we'll need, let's get started. In a previous module, we discussed some of the day-to-day minor transgressions that we tried to solve through reinforcing and redirecting using the least invasive interventions. Even recently, we learned that narrating the positive is a technique that can serve to address most of these issues. Sometimes, even despite our best efforts, misbehaviors still remain unresolved. The tumbleweeds we've highlighted here can lead to particularly stressful situations among students. When the level of intensity steps up a notch, so too should our response to them. This module is all about specialized conflict resolution to appropriately respond to more severe and disruptive behaviors. We've provided 3 key terms that are important to understanding the role of the teacher in de-escalating potentially aggressive student behavior. The first term is behavior escalation. This is when conflict or undesirable behavior worsens and becomes more intense, serious, and possibly dangerous. When behavior escalates, we want to respond by diffusing or de-escalating the behavior. This means utilizing research-based positive behavior supports to alleviate conflict with the goal of returning to the stage of recovery or calm. Now, I want to be clear. There are students who've shown to have difficulties managing their behavior who are enrolled in special education programs that provide plans for social and emotional and behavioral support. If you work with these particular students, you'll receive specialized training. This module attempts to provide an overview of basic techniques for de-escalating behavior and certainly does not take the place of that specialized training. Verbal de-escalation is the primary technique we'll use to diffuse behavior in our mini-lesson. Verbal de-escalation is a targeted intervention to use for students who are at risk for aggression. It's basically using calm language, along with other communication techniques, to diffuse, redirect, or de-escalate a conflict situation. The resource Doing the De-Escalation Dance provides us with a 7-phase model of acting out behavior. It starts with calm, and then there's a trigger that causes agitation. Variables can cause a misbehavior to accelerate and come to a peak. This peak could be as simple as a student cursing at another student, kicking them under the table, or it could be as aggressive as student flipping over tables or chairs in the classroom, destroying property, or even lead to physical altercations. Following the peak, the acting out behavior eventually de-escalates until it reaches the recovery stage. We know that from this model, most students go through a predictable cycle, and knowing how and when to engage is a key factor in de-escalation. Ideally, we want to intervene before the student starts to peak. To learn more about each of these phases, some of the behaviors you can expect to see, and potential ways to address them, scan over pages 9 to 29 of the resource Doing the De-Escalation Dance, which is found in the Canvas resources for this module. There are barriers to de-escalation that could cause students to become even more agitated, which of course escalates the behavior to a peak moment. Prejudging, not listening, criticizing, name-calling, power struggles, threatening, or minimizing the student's concerns can all be barriers to de-escalation, so we want to avoid these sorts of behaviors at all costs. We want to open as many lines of communication as possible, be able to listen to each other to move to the recovery phase. This particular lesson lab can certainly bring up feelings of anxiety. We're asking you to maintain emotional constancy when a stressful situation arises. This is like riding a roller coaster and having a straight face the entire time. Maintaining emotional constancy means lessening the intensity of strong emotions, especially the feelings of frustration and disappointment. Although it's difficult, it's a key part of the job. Modeling the behavior we hope to see in our students is paramount. Each difficult situation has its own twists and turns, and there isn't an exact formula to de-escalation. However, maintaining emotional constancy will allow you to remain calm and remember that although you're not in complete control of the situation, you can certainly control the way that you respond to it. Read about maintaining emotional constancy on pages 439 to 441 in Teach Like a Champion 2.0. Stop when you reach the section titled Wrong Answers. As you read, consider what you'll need to do to maintain emotional constancy during your mini lesson. When misbehavior persists and students don't correct themselves, sometimes it's necessary to conduct a more invasive intervention. During your mini lesson, you may need to use clear and precise directions to have a student move away from another student if they're not getting along. You could ask a student who's upset to take some time to cool down in a safe space that you designate. Some school districts ask teachers to have a safe space in the classroom where students can sit away from others and have some time to recollect themselves. Some teachers may put a squish ball in the safe space or a journal to have available for students to write about what the issue is. Another common intervention is to ask a student to wait in the hallway or some other location in the classroom to have a one-on-one discussion. It might not be appropriate for some students to wait in the hallway, as they may wander off, which is certainly not safe or ideal. Asking a student to wait in a safe space could allow you time to make sure that all other students are focused on learning before you have a private conversation with a troubled student. One criterion for this module is that you're empathetic to students' concerns. When you do take a student to the side to have a private conversation, you can show that you're empathetic through your active listening. Attending is part of active listening, and this is simply giving your physical and mental attention and validating their concerns. This lets the student know that you care and you want to help them solve the issue. Following and making eye contact periodically with the student lets them know you're engaged in their concerns. Taking what they say and paraphrasing it or helping them reflect without judgment, taking on the perspective of the student helps show empathy and prove that you're actively listening to their concerns and allows you to lead to the troubleshooting mode of the de-escalation. We've included a few phrases here that may help with your de-escalation conversation. Phrases like, "Tell me what happened," "What were you thinking at the time?" and "What do you think about it now?" "Who did this affect?" "What do you need to do about it?" "How can we make sure this doesn't happen again?" and "What can I do to help you?" Congratulations! You've concluded the learning for this module. The next few slides will help clarify how your learning will be assessed and provide a few tips to be successful during the mini lesson. During the course of the mini lesson, you'll experience a situation that could potentially escalate to a fight or flight response from the student. It'll be your job to address the situation and problem solve to de-escalate the conflict. Do this by empathizing with the student's concerns, and remaining emotionally constant throughout. Being careful not to respond with negativity nor brush off their concerns is not important. For that extra challenge, help guide other students to stay on task, especially if you're having that one-on-one with a student who's having troubles. Keeping the focus on the learning while still taking a student to the side to have a conversation with them. So there's not a lot of prep work for this module other than mentally preparing yourself to step into a stressful situation. To help lessen your anxiety of not really knowing what you're stepping into, we've listed the scenarios here. Basically, after you deliver directions for students to begin their rigorous task, you'll soon experience one of the scenarios on the screen. Important thing is to remain calm, listen to the student, and then decide what to do next. Maybe right then, right there, you need to move a student away from another student because there's an opportunity, there's a chance an altercation might take place. Maybe if it's a younger child, you ask them if they'd like to go to the safe space and wait there so that you could talk to them later, just chill for a little bit. Or you ask a student to please step over there to a different location. I want to talk with you, and then maybe you give directions to the other students about what they should be doing while you need to step to the side and have this little conversation. So when you do actually get to that conversation to try to talk with a student, de-escalate the situation, think about what you could say to them to show that you're empathetic, to show that you care about their concern, and let them know that you ultimately want to help them solve this problem, and that what they're experiencing is real, but let's find a way to fix it. So remember, the goal is not only to keep the focus on the rigorous task and the learning, but to continue to maintain a positive relationship so you guys could work together to ultimately grow together. So read over these scenarios and think about what you could say, what you could do, and how you could solve the problem. Thanks for watching this module titled De-Escalation that was designed and produced by GoTeach11. This video referred to content from Georgia Southern University as well as Doug Lemov's Teach Like a Champion 2.0. Images were downloaded from 123RF and Pixabay.